Hey, gun people. Day 19 of Karen Read trial. I had a few days off here. They're back in court. It started out with the judge giving this reminder.
So in considering the testimony of any witness, remember that the questions that are asked are not evidence. Only the answers, which are really the only part of the exchange between the lawyers and the witnesses that are under oath, are evidence. So if a witness is asked, isn't it true that after you learned that your uncle left you money in his will, you poisoned him? And the witness answers no. Then based solely on that question and answer, there's no evidence that the witness has an uncle, that the uncle had a will, that the uncle left the witness money, that the witness knew that the uncle left the witness money, or that the witness poisoned him. So keep that in mind for...
So this is an interesting jury instruction, and normally jury instructions are provoked or caused by misconduct or one attorney saying, hey, I was unfairly prejudicial, or this comment or question, or the attorney, and the defense has been nothing but implying all this crap. Isn't it true that you killed him and that you did this and you covered it up and blah, 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 blah? And the guy goes, no. But the statement of the attorney usually has impact on the jury. So this is a pretty good instruction. The problem is instructions come and go. But when you're constantly bombarded through a trial with lying questions and implications in questions and doubt in questions and this conspiracy theory that has been nothing but conjecture, no evidence whatsoever of any conspiracy, but they've said it on every question and every witness. So this is an interesting instruction. Let's see where it goes. So the first witness is lieutenant in charge of a special team that responds to collect evidence, to do special assignments, dignitary protection, and he's basically saying that we were called and requested to go help get evidence. I'm assuming this will hopefully clear up the conspiracy, saying not only that the four cops with the same last name or that have known each other were involved in the conspiracy. We're now getting a complete different agency with complete different officers through the chain to come respond to collect evidence. It sounds like I'm total anti-conspiracy, which I'm not. I don't trust the government. But in this case, most cops would want the real killer who killed a fellow cop. Most cops aren't going to frame an innocent woman and get behind putting the wrong person in jail who killed a cop. It's just not reasonable, people. Oh, so I may have missed it before, but this guy just testified what they were asked to search for, and they were told to search for possible broken pieces of glass from the taillight, and the victim's sneaker was missing. A sneaker missing is kind of consistent with getting hit by a car. It's very common when people are hit by cars. They're knocked out of their shoes. He's missing a sneaker. It'll be interesting on where they find the sneaker because, I mean, if you believe the big conspiracy that all these cops beat the guy up inside, cleaned up the crime scene perfectly, got their story straight, and somehow they left the sneaker inside or the sneaker is never found, then that may corroborate the conspiracy. But I don't know if the sneaker's been found or not. I guess we'll find out. Okay, so this made sense. They first found two large pieces of the taillight, and then they ask, can we see a picture of the taillight so we know how much is missing? Because if there's only a couple large pieces, we just found two large pieces. Obviously, the taillight was missing more than two large pieces, which would explain later when the snow melted why they found a lot of little pieces later. If you believe the conspiracy theory, the people that beat him up in the house and dragged his body out there with no tracks and got all their stories together, they set up the little pieces later and threw them out there for the cops to find. The conspiracy just gets so weak the more information I get on this case. But the people who are hanging on to it, man, they're diehards. Oh, and the plot thickens. They found the sneaker. It was on the curb, pushed up against the curb, upside down, which would be consistent if a guy was hit and he went against the curb, it might pull his shoe off. They also found a couple of pieces of the taillight next to the sneaker. Oh, man, these conspiracy guys are good. They're planting all the evidence just in the right places to frame this poor innocent woman. Wow, these conspiracy guys are good. Should work for like the CIA or NSA or something. Anyway, here we go. Oh, that's nice. They have a GPS Garmin handheld, and every piece of evidence they found, they GPS coordinate, and then they upload it to a program that later draws out a map. Very nice. I wonder if we're going to see that. So here's a picture of the crime scene where they were looking. Here's one of the pieces of the tail light they recovered. Okay, so the conspiracy theorists will immediately start saying, why was this light on top of the snow, Rick, if it wasn't planted? These marks here were the shovel and the fork that they were using to shift through the snow. And when they shoved that underneath and pulled up through the snow when they were looking for things, this came to the top. So this was on the bottom, and it was pushed up by their search efforts. No, Rick, it was planted. Okay, whatever, you crazy conspiracy people. Here's a picture of the sneaker they found next to the curb. So here's a clear piece of the tail light they found in the area of the sneaker. So this was a satellite image. They're saying it takes images on 4 different satellites, but you can have some variances, which is normal because of tree, weather, faulty equipment, battery, so there's a bunch of overlay when they did the GPS. So what probably the defense is going to say is, isn't this an awful large area? If somebody hit them with a car, wouldn't it be more located? That's probably why they're covering why there would be overlay and distances. So this was a pretty quick, direct, pretty simple, straightforward. These are the guys that found all the evidence in the lawn. And here's the cross. This will be interesting.
I was not aware of that. All right.
Okay, so this is some the questioning here, and again, I have this on 1.5 because I'm viewing it. These questions, he's just trying to plant the seed that someone else came and planted all this evidence. Yeah, look, the investigation, the crime scene should have been secured. Somebody should have been posted when they were searching. It wasn't. Yes, the crime scene was not secured, but he's making these questions look like this feeds into conspiracy. What it feeds into is lack of good police work and a shitty investigation. It does not lead anywhere near a conspiracy. Let's listen to this line of questioning real quick here.
When you got
controlling that crime, the time that Lieutenant Tully first called you, were you aware that no one from law enforcement was controlling that crime scene?
objection.
I'll allow it.
I was not aware of that, no, sir.
Were you aware at that time that no one had been controlling it for about 6 or 7 hours before you were called?
I was not aware of that, sir.
Were you aware that the scene had been abandoned by the police and investigators at about 7:50 in the morning?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
I was not aware of that, sir.
Were you aware that the scene was left open to the public for hours before you were asked to search?
I was not aware of that.
All right, in any case, when you got there was only one trooper on scene, and that was a trooper from your unit,
Correct, sir.
Beausoleil?
Correct.
Nobody else.
Okay, so he planted a seed of doubt. He planted that, yes, you know, the crime scene could have been contaminated. The guy's already testified that, look, if we're at a crime scene to where we're not thinking, you know, if you're out in the middle of a forest and there's not a lot of traffic, you're not necessarily going to post a man there to secure a crime scene. I mean, I probably would if it was a murder investigation. I'd want to secure so I could state in a chain of custody when we get to trial a year or so later that, hey, nobody was allowed in there. Once the police officer showed up, it was secured. But before we show up, we can't say that. So there's always a chance that a crime scene could be contaminated. But he's making it seem like there was this big plan, which I think is BS. You're in the middle of a blizzard, snow is falling, you're in front, and nobody was sitting on a crime scene. Would it have been better? Yeah. Because all the snow was there, if somebody was out there planning, you would have tracks. You would have footprints. So the fact that he's trying to imply that it could have been planted, yeah, I mean, an alien could have flown by and dropped the sneaker. But it's not likely. Okay, so this guy was a pretty good witness, pretty detailed. He's a lieutenant, which kind of surprised me because most uppers are not that smart. He seems like he's understands exactly what they're searching, logging, times. The defense tried to jack him up and make it appear that the logs didn't match, and when he testified at the other trial, he said they were within a feet of each other, when in fact one piece was 3 feet from the first piece you found, and to me that's more smoke and mirrors bullshit. Look, if you're looking for things and they're found within a foot of each other on a crime scene, great. I mean, should they have measured in between each piece of evidence on how far? Maybe. They did GPS, so the measurements are there. But the defense doesn't want to measure it and prove it. They just want to plant that seed and throw up the smoke that there's something nefarious and they're somehow all lying and in on it. Total BS. Guy's a good witness. Further implicates and makes me believe that what happened is the innocent girl got in an argument with her boyfriend, hit him, and left him. But let's see who's next. Okay, this witness works for the crime lab. She does DNA testing on evidence. I'm assuming this is how they're going to get in that there was DNA from the victim found on the tail light of the car, but we'll see. Okay, she just testified that she is the one that showed up when the Karen Reed's car was parked in the Canton Police, and she showed up to inspect it for DNA evidence. So she testified there was damage to the rear bumper, scratches, and the broken tail light, and a dent. So she hit pretty hard. People are like, well, how did you get a black eye, Rick? Well, he dented the car when she hit him. No, Rick, that was from all the cops beating him up. Okay, whatever. So she found a piece of hair caught in the tail light here and broken glass, probably from the drink he was holding here. Man, these conspiracy guys are really good to plant all this evidence just in the right spot. So here's the rear bumper with the glass on it. Broken tail light. Hair was found here. Dent is in this area. So this is a zoomed in area of the tail light. The hair, she said, was found in this area. So this is an image of the rear of the... This is a nice Lexus, man. This is a Lexus SUV. Very nice. They're showing this to show that there was no obstruction in the back window, so she can't say I didn't see him. I accidentally must have hit him and I couldn't see. They're showing there was no obstruction in things in the back here. So she marked a sticker with A, and this was the hair that she had noticed where she received it off the car. Man, you know those conspiracy guys are good when they can plant a piece of hair on her car right in the right spot and it stayed there. Wow, that's really good. So here's a close-up of the bumper with the glass. And if a guy was hit and fell down and run over, he would put his arm up here, maybe to break his fall or try not get dragged under the vehicle, which could explain the scrapes. No, Rick, it was the dog with no puncture wounds. Okay, so this is the damage on the rear door, which would be consistent, I didn't buy into the conspiracy theory, that if he was holding the glass in his left hand, and he was hit, the glass breaking, which is broken glass on a bumper we have here, could have cut and chipped the paint and caused these scratches from the glass and the impact of the car. But if I was a conspiracy guy, all those people that conspired, all the agencies, EMT, and all the cops that conspired, they actually put scratches on the vehicle and when they planted the glass on the innocent woman's car. Okay. Okay, the conspiracy people keep talking about how the cops collected evidence in a red cup. You know, the regular red cups that everybody uses to drink liquor. They were on scene, and they probably found blood in the snow. I mean, you want to get it before it melts or changes or get contaminated. And if all I have is a cup there, a Dixie cup, whatever it is, I'm going to grab that cup and put the DNA evidence in it. I mean, that's not so far-fetched. An officer that responds doesn't usually have everything a crime scene technician has to dispose or to collect evidence. So that seems reasonable. I mean, when we responded to incidents, we had, gloves and cameras, and I always carried like tubes for needles because we got a lot of needles. A lot of people we were dealing with drug users. So I always had the needle syringes that I could drop the syringe and the needle in a protective case that's approved. It was sterile. And then if we needed DNA or to match it or to get the drugs or if it was used possibly to stab somebody, so I had things like that in my car, but I don't know if I had something. I guess I had some plastic jars with a lid where I could put dope in it that I would have probably scooped up and took the blood and the ice and in order to maybe get some DNA. That they use these Dixie cups that everybody's upset about. I mean, if that's all you got, then collect the evidence. You do the best you can. That's what's called the best evidence rule. When you get evidence, is it the best evidence you have? It is. So you can give it the value of what you want. So she testified that she got the Dixie cups with the brown stains in it, which was blood, and then she did DNA tests later. Okay, her testimony was pretty straightforward. She tested all the blood. She's the one that gathered the blood to see if there was dog DNA, which there wasn't. She had all the fibers. She looked at all the holes to see if they were torn by the car, whether they were cut or tears, and basically just went through the evidence collection process and the tests she did. I'm sure the defense is probably going to be going for, you don't know if it was dog, you didn't test all the stuff for dogs, you don't know if a dog caused that tear. I'm sure that's where they're going, but maybe not. We'll see. So this is a slick move when this guy's been being kind of a dick to all the witnesses. And he kind of yells at him, talks down to him, etc. And somebody probably told him, dude, you're coming off as a dick. So this is a great way to cover his raised voice. It doesn't cover his tone and his accusations, but it makes him appear human to the jury. So watch this little smooth talk lawyer confuse the jury that he's really a nice guy.
Were you dispatched to the Sally Port? And I apologize, I'm not yelling at you. I'm trying to keep my voice elevated, so just so you know.
Understood.
It's not my normal speaking voice.
Nice move. I don't believe it. He is yelling at her. He is raising his voice, and he's going to be confrontational, and it's not because of the microphone. But good cover, Weasel. Okay, he just brought up pretty good another poor investigation. She had 6 of those red Solo cups with blood. And instead of testing all 6, which is expensive because you have to pay for each one, you get into thousands of dollars, she tested only 1. And the cups weren't labeled. And so now he just brought up that, hey, you know that there could be different blood from different people, and each cup could have had something different, but you only tested 1. That's an incompetent or a lack of good investigation. That doesn't point to a conspiracy that she planned to do that, and they picked the cup, and they only had his blood in 1 cup, and it's a big concern. But that's what he keeps insinuating. Oh, she didn't even send any of them to DNA. She just took the DNA swabs and never sent them in. So what does that mean? Incompetency? Saving money? Bad investigation? Does it mean that all the other evidence pointing at the client is null and void because it's a big conspiracy? That's a reach.
That's correct.
Okay. And again, the remainder of all of that Solo cup, as well as all the other 5 Solo cups, was retained by Canton Police at the Canton Police Department in the control of the lead investigator, Michael Proctor, correct?
I don't know who was in control of it once I returned it to the Canton Police Department.
Who did you return it to at the Canton Police?
Another good point, she used 1 swab for multiple areas. That's not good. If I'm swabbing an area for DNA, I use a swab in this area and I mark it on where I collected it. If I want to swab this area, I knew a clean one and I do it. That's poor police work. Again, poor investigation. She used 1 swab. She swabbed here and she swabbed here. Suppose this was an animal and this was a human, or this was a human and that was an animal, or this was a Canton police officer, or we don't know who this is and we know who this is. Well, that's kind of critical. Again, poor investigation doesn't discount all the evidence that points to their client. So on the multiple swabs, he's like, you can't tell which one was taken where. She can't. We still have the swab and we could still test it, and it either comes back to the dead person or it doesn't. Even if one part didn't come back to the dead person, are they saying that this car hit 2 people? I mean, it just doesn't change. Again, shoddy investigation doesn't change the results of what we're seeing. So this is on the accused, Karen Reed here, the innocent framed poor little woman. She is interfering with the testimony by nodding her head up and down and yes and right. Either to the jury can see that she's disagreeing with what's being said, and now she's agreeing. That's not good. She's not supposed to be doing that. You can watch it here.
Glass from the rear bumper of Miss Reed's Lexus, correct?
Yes, I have it as a parent class, but yes.
As a parent glass, fair enough.
So she's like, no, that's not true. Oh, yeah, that's true. That she shouldn't be doing that. I think he might whisper to her to stop, but I'm not sure. He leans over to her. Okay, so he did a cross on the examiner woman. This was pretty boring testimony. She took the blood samples, etc. He tried to paint the picture that you don't know what happened to him before you got him. So she's like, no, I don't. And basically to imply, to plant the seed that Canton Police changed everything and set everything up for her to find what she found. Far reach, nothing crisis that leads me to believe there's a big conspiracy. So now they called a second witness from the forensic lab.
IER.
Okay, so pretty much not eventful, not a whole bunch. Technical, blood, preservation of evidence. Defense threw up a lot of things that he wants to imply that basically all the cops on scene set up and manipulated every other agency that showed up and that collected evidence and that tested the evidence, and they don't know what happened before, therefore it's a conspiracy. It's all smoke and mirrors to me, but the more I see, the more everything points to she did it. And I'm probably 90% there. Anyway, wait for next day. Day 19. Done.